latest sports headlines and some of the exciting behind-the-scenes stories on the sports front, we have Jae Min joining us in the studio. Good morning, Jae Min.
Hi, I'm here. It's Wednesday, and we talked about exciting sports, the latest sports news. So we're going to start off with talking about something exciting, which is game.
Right. Now, many of our listeners might think, what does game have to do with sports?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that later. And do you play games?
No,
like any type of
not
games?
at all.
Like video games or smartphone games, anything computer games?
Not a huge fan of
Not
games.
a huge fan.
No.
Me neither. I don't play games at all. But recently, game has been occurring some social problems, like massive problems, which is beyond news, which is we call it game disorder. So gaming disorder is actually defined in the 11th revision of the International Classification of Disease, which is also known as ICD-11, as a pattern of gaming behavior characterized by impaired control over gaming, increasing priority given to gaming over other activities to the extent that gaming takes precedence over the interests and daily activities, and continuation or escalation of gaming despite the occurrence of negative consequences. So gaming disorder has been really occurring serious problem these days and actually affecting a lot of people's behaviors.
Right.
So for gaming disorder to be diagnosed, the behavior pattern must be of sufficient severity to result in significant impairment in personal, family, social, educational, occupational, or other important areas of functioning, and would normally have been evident for at least 12 months.
Well, in this day and age, I think we all have some type of addiction of sorts.
Yes.
But with the widespread use of smartphones, I guess people are more prone to fall into game addiction and evenally gaming disorder.
It is. It's much more easier to access to the games, and you can play games. So, like old days, we need the console, we need the television, so we had to get back home. And the parents, what they do to block the game for our son or daughter, they put the game inside their car just to lock it down. But these days, everybody has their smartphones. It's so easy to access, and that's why gaming disorder is such a problem these days.
Then could you tell us more about this international classification of diseases?
Yes, as I said, it is ICD-11, which is the gaming disorder is defined in the 11th revision of this ICD-11. So the International Classification of Disease is the basis of identification of health trends and statistics globally, and the international standard for reporting disease and health conditions. So it is used by medical practitioners around the world to diagnose conditions and by researchers to categorize conditions. So if you say ICD is identifying game disorder as one of the disease, then this means that this is a serious problem.
Then how do the authorities decide whether or not to include a certain illness on this list?
Yeah, well, they're the smart guys. They know what they're doing, and they kind of identify more specifically whether this is a disease or not. So the decision on inclusion of gaming disorder in ICD-11 is based on reviews of available evidence and reflects a consensus of experts from different disciplines and geographical regions that were involved in the process of technical consultations undertaken by WHO in the process of ICD-11 development. The inclusion of gaming disorder in ICD-11 follows the development of treatment programs for people with health conditions identical to those characteristic of gaming disorder in many parts of the world, and will result in the increased attention of health professionals to the risk of development of this disorder, and accordingly to relevant prevention and treatment measures.
But I'm sure not all people who enjoy games are suffering from game addiction or gaming disorder. Who do you think should be concerned about developing this disorder?
Well, luckily, not everyone is characterized as gaming disorder. So if you play a game, that doesn't mean that you are like high potentially in the group of gaming disorder. Studies suggest that gaming disorder affects only a small proportion of people who engage in digital or video gaming activities. However, this is the important part. People who partake in gaming should be alert to the amount of time they spend on gaming activities, particularly when it is to the exhaustion of other daily activities. So if you feel like you're getting bothered, like reduced time of sports or reading books or television. So if you feel like something's affected, then you might be getting close to gaming disorder. But as the study says, according to the studies, it's a small portion, but you always have to be alert that you might be one that is addicted to game.
So these are some of the signs that you might want to check if you enjoy playing games too much.
Yes, I mean, if you play games, you just find out that after one blink or a couple blinks, you just realize that, oh, it's already has been an hour. That really happens. So that is the first step of being addicted to games. So always have to be alert that how many times you are spending on that small game.
Okay, well, we'll continue on with our discussion on esports or gaming disorder or video games in general after a song break. Here's Loveholics with Butterfly. So I'm back with Jae Min, who's joining me in the studio for our sports segment. We were discussing gaming disorder in the previous half, but I did mention at the start of this segment that video games is a sport, is a recognized sport. Could you tell us more about esports and the debate that's going on over its recognition as a sport?
The reason why I brought game disorder is because I wanted to talk about esports. So first of all, let's break it down. What is esports? Well, known better as electronic sports. It's a form of competition using video games which uses multiplayer games and professional players to compete each other. So, long time ago, like Super Mario or like NBA Jam, those type of games became professional league, and now it is called esports. So video games, size of the market, video games have surpassed music, film, and also sports industries when it comes to its incomes. So it's massive. It is huge. This business is not something that you could just skip. It's huge. That's why esports is so always on the news these days. The many people believe that the most popular arguments against esports becoming a sport are they take no skill. So like traditionally, I graduated I majored in physical education, and what we learned and what we done and what we actually loved was sport. And what we debate is about esports. They take no skill. There's no physical exertion. They are just playing a game. So this is what traditional sport experts say. That esports is not a game.
But they don't take physical skills, but they do need mental skills or strategic skills.
That's it. On the other hand, it is believed that esports are real sports by definition, much in the same way chess or poker are. So they use their brain and they have the strategy. And let's say we had a research at the physical education when I graduated. So they actually did a research how fast they click. And how precise they could click on the screen. It was 4 to 8 times more precise than normal people. So professional gamers actually have the skill, the physical skill that they want when they want to click faster and they want to click the perfect spot. They know how to do that.
Oh, so they do have a physical skill.
They do have a physical skill, and they do train more than 12 hours a day. They have their own nutritionist. They have their own analysts. They have everyone. It's more like a professional sports. So this is not only a game. This is something that the trend is actually changing. This is a next step. This could be a next step. So just like me, traditional sports guy, I still believe that esports isn't a sport. But on the other hand, esports has every aspect with which traditional sports actually required. They have this physical exertion. They need precisely precise ability to click where they want to click. They have to be fast. They have to be concentrated. They need the momentum. So they have everything that sports actually wanted. That's why IOC is actually talking about putting esports a part of Olympic Games.
Right, starting 2024 Paris.
Yes, they are actually trying. Well, I don't think it's going to happen actually in 2024, but this is surprising that it is actually happening. They are actually discussing about it. This is a huge step. And I don't know, maybe not in Paris, but after it, 2028, LA, they might have e-game as a part of IOC. I actually had a chance to talk about one of the IOC member, and I actually asked personally, is esports going to be part of IOC, and is it going to be part of Olympic Games? His answer was probably.
So the possibility is high.
Very high.
Since these days there are so many different sports, new sports that are included as a recognized competition.
Yes. We talked about b-boy, breakdancing.
Right.
So I just want to ask you guys, what's your opinion? Is computer game really sports, or is game just a game? I don't know. It's up to you guys. But the thing is, it's 2019. It's May now, and things are changing. Maybe it is time for us to adopt something new.
Right.
Even I have to start that.
I think so
whole
too.
new step. Yeah, I'm just an old traditional sports guy.
Since you majored in physical education.
Yeah, I played ball. I played basketball in college.
More so.
Yeah. And game was just a game, but nowadays, after 15 years, it's totally new story.
Things change.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you, Jae Min, for the coverage today.
Thank you for having me.
And that does it for today. Before we go, a quick thank you to our listeners and staff, producer Taj and me, writers Yoon Sun and Yoon Se-young, and engineers Kim Young-tae and Ye Jung-hwan, who make this show possible. This is Yoo Hee-yeol with 공원에서 at the park. I'll be back here tomorrow morning.